Radiohead, one just assumed, was never coming back to Toronto. Radiohead has unfinished business in this town. Ugly business. The sort of ugly, unfinished business that any reasonable human being should agree would justify never setting foot within the city limits again. Tom York of Radiohead performs in concert at Madison Square Garden on Tuesday, July 10, 2018, in New York. Greg Allen, Envision, AP. The last time the esteemed English art rock quartet was scheduled to play here, at Downsview Park on June 16, 2012. The outdoor stage upon it was to play that evening crumbled in on itself a mere hour before the gates were set to open, killing the band's 33-year-old drum technician, Scott Johnson, and injuring 3 other members of its crew. 6 years later, no one has accepted responsibility for nor apologized for the accident, nor been forced by the Ontario legal system to do so. 2 separate criminal trials stemming from the incident have petered out into an inconclusive void that, as even the last judge to preside over the case put it as she effectively laid it to rest last September, remain incomprehensible to Mr. Johnson's family, who can justifiably complain that justice has not been done. Late last year, the Office of the Ontario Chief Coroner announced an inquest into the matter, but a representative told the Star this week, no date has been set. It's still in the planning stages, so we're not in a position yet to announce a date and location. Article continued below. Read more. New trial ordered in deadly stage collapse at Downsview Radiohead concert. Toronto judge stays charges in fatal Radiohead stage collapse due to trial delays. Distraught father wants answers a year after son's death in Radiohead stage collapse. The announcement in February that Radiohead would return to our city for a pair of dates at the Scotiabank Arena this Thursday and Friday, both of which sold out instantly, was cause for celebration amongst local fans who haven't had an up-close and personal look at the band since a gig at the Molson Amphitheatre in 2008. Then, it was also cause for surprise. I've had a message from some of the crew and I don't think that they're looking forward to being there. You know, Scott Johnson's father, Ken, sighed from the home he shares with his wife, Sue, in the English village of Hickleton, South Yorkshire, this week. The band has got to go through the motions this week. They're going to be in Toronto, they're going to be performing, and the crew and the band, I think, they witnessed things that we've not witnessed, so it's not going to be pleasant for them. They did invite us out, but I have to come out for the inquest and I can't really be going backwards and forwards across to Toronto. As much as I might enjoy to see the band, I also sort of try to take a bit more of a backseat. Ken Johnson, the father of the drum tech Scott Johnson, who was killed in the 2012 Radiohead stage collapse at Downsview Park, stands outside Toronto Old City Hall on October 26, 2016. Andrew Francis Wallace, Toronto Star, he had nothing but praise for the band's support over the years since his son's death. Article continued below. They were Scott's friends, really, and not ours. But to be quite honest, they've been like family. Johnson says. Radiohead have been excellent. They really have been incredibly supportive. It's above and beyond the call. They've been there if I needed it and I know that they're there and, for me, I've probably found some new friends in them. ... But they've been smashing, really. So I'm hoping, for them, that the Toronto shows will, perhaps, draw a line. Ken Johnson will be back in Toronto whenever the inquest into the circumstances surrounding Scott's death happens, and he was expecting a call from the Chief Coroner's office the day after we spoke to discuss the structure of the inquest. He's uncertain whether Dominic Gigliari, the engineer hired to design the Downsview stage, and representatives of Optech staging and concert promotion giant Live Nation, against whom 13 charges, later reduced to 10, under the Ontario Occupational Health and Safety Act, were collectively brought in 2013, will turn up at the inquest, but he'd appreciate the gesture. Scott Johnson, 33, was killed when part of the stage structure crashed hours before the band Radiohead was set to perform at Downsview Park in Toronto on June 16, 2012. The original, drawn-out court case ended in a mistrial. When Judge Sean Nakatsuru was appointed to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice just 3 days before the trial was supposed to end, and he declared that he no longer had jurisdiction to rule over the proceedings. Ann Nelson, the new judge appointed to the file, would then throw the charges out based on the defendant's lawyer's contention that their client's right to a trial without unreasonable delays had been violated based on a 2016 Supreme Court of Canada decision that imposed strict timelines, 18 months in provincial court, on how quickly a case should come to court. "We are appalled by the decision," Radiohead stated through its Instagram account at the time. "This is an insult to the memory of Scott Johnson, his parents and our crew. It offers no consolation, closure or assurance that this kind of accident will not happen again." All three defendants pleaded not guilty throughout, and no one has ever had to reckon with the alleged design errors in the staging. Principally, what Crown Prosecutor David McCaskill contended was a failure to account for more than 7,000 kilograms of equipment weight on the roof that contributed to Scott Johnson being crushed beneath a 2,300-kilogram video monitor. But Father Ken, who's semi-retired from his job with Britain's National Access, who work for all the larger scaffolding companies, with whom he's shared the specs on the Downsview case to back him up, has no doubt as to why it happened. An aerial view shows a collapsed stage in Toronto's Downsview Park on June 16, 2012, which killed Scott Johnson and forced a cancellation of a sold-out Radiohead concert. Tara Walton, all of this will, he's certain, come out in the inquest, even if that process ultimately won't result in any legal recriminations. He concedes that he and his wife could have taken some cold comfort in at least a simple acknowledgement of their loss over the past 6 years from the parties involved in the mishap that killed their son, whether they were actually at fault or not. "Absolutely, yeah," says Ken, in noting that he could never afford to bring any sort of private legal action against a multi-billion-dollar international company like Live Nation. "Of course, the way that the world is, the insurers say, don't make contact, don't acknowledge any guilt, but again, if a few of them had, perhaps, sent a card of condolence, at least, it would have certainly affected our attitude. So it's not been a good experience and I still feel very strongly that it stinks. There's a bit of a funny smell coming from how this case has been closed. They've let Scott down terribly and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. Enjoy Radiohead this week, then, Toronto. But give a thought or raise a glass or tip a hat or some gesture, at least, to acknowledge the memory of Scott Johnson amidst that enjoyment. He deserved better than what Ontario has done for him." Ben Raynor is the Star's music critic and based in Toronto. Follow him on Twitter, @IHateBenRaynor.